Welcome in. We have made it. Week 5 is done. On to week 6. And now we will not have any Chiefs, Rams, Dolphins, or Vikings. As always, Mike Burland's with me. How you doing, Mike?
Good. Can't believe we're third of the way through the fantasy regular season. So it's been rough this year. Injuries, just surprises, upsets. So it's been an interesting year for sure.
Well, and Darnold finally came back to earth, which never thought that was going to happen, but here we are.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, maybe he's just not as good in London. You never know.
The time change.
So far, he's still a god in America. We don't know.
It's true. And then you'll get he's good in Minnesota, and then Jets are a legit defense, and they kind of make everyone look human for the most part.
Yeah, and honestly, the Jets kind of beat themselves up in that game, to be kind of frank with you. One of the fun things I shared today was the fact that they have the same amount of points with Aaron Rodgers as they did last year with Zach Wilson. So that's always fun.
Yeah. At least we got something from Garrett Wilson. It wasn't, what was it? 13 catches, 22 targets, barely over 100 yards. But it's well, we'll take it. Jeez, disappointing.
Better than a lot of other options. So
for sure.
You haven't likely been playing Mahomes. You might have been playing Stafford. You haven't been playing a Dolphins quarterback, except for Tua, and he's been out. But you probably have been playing Darnold. So, that in mind, first QB I'm bringing up, Kirk Cousins. Man of Steel from last week. Currently the number 1 quarterback in fantasy. Had a great week on Thursday. Has 10 full days to prepare for another game. Gets to play the Panthers, who 3 of the 5 quarterbacks have gone over 20 fantasy points, and Kirk Cousins finally kind of looked back to his old self. If they really let him sling it, he's going to be good to go. Week 2, 17.5 fantasy point. To week 3, 12.1. Week 4 fell off, 8.5. This past week, 35.4 fantasy points. That's just insane.
Yeah, 500 yards, and he was awesome. He was awesome, man, and. It's important to note that, change of offensive coordinators and change of team, like stuff like that. Sometimes it takes a few games to get going. No preseason, at least, games. So, hopefully this is, obviously he's not going to throw for 500 yards every game, but hopefully this is a little bit more of what we see this a little bit more with the Falcons the rest of the year.
Yeah, we're really hoping he will continue to grow. And more importantly, I really just hope that he will find it in his heart to give the ball a little more to Bijan Robinson, because, man, do I need that.
I know, man.
A lot of other fantasy managers are out there with me. Hold strong. We're hoping for the best here.
Yeah, no kidding.
So the other one that's more widely available, if you can't find Kirk Cousins on your waiver wire, Daniel Jones, 11.5% rostered. He gets to play the Bengals. More importantly, Bengals have been giving up points, and Jones looked like he found a rhythm even without Malik Neighbors this week. And honestly, this year has been pretty solid. Week 2, 18.3. Week 3, 19.4. Week 4, 10.5. Fell off a little bit. I think that was also due to losing Neighbors probably. And then week 5, 22.1. So that continues to be the trend against a Bengals defense that also just lost. I believe it was a safety. And that defense just beat up, and so good opportunity for him, and seems to have found something. So those are my 2. Yeah, somebody you like more, or other ones you just want to throw out?
Yeah, a couple more to throw out. I like the Kirk Cousins one for sure, and Caleb Williams. A lot of people probably moved on from him because he started off the year slowly, but potentially a rookie quarterback starting to understand things a little bit and play better. Obviously, he played the Panthers, so I definitely have to keep that in mind. But their schedule over the next 3 weeks is pretty nice. The Bears, Jaguars, Commanders, Cardinals, next 3 weeks. I like those 3 matchups. This is what I think last week was kind of only the second game where he had kind of all the weapons that we were expecting him. He had Keenan Allen last week as well, but I feel like Keenan Allen was a little bit limited in terms of coming back from that injury. You had him week 1, missed the next 2 games. And, so this is what we were expecting, DJ Moore, Keenan Allen, Roma Dunze, Swift to be able to run the ball, and, Cole Kmet. So hopefully it's all kind of coming together. So yeah, I'd pick him up. He has the upside, right? He has the upside. And, obviously you want to wait maybe a couple more weeks or at least one more week maybe to start him. So maybe there's a better option to start this week. But if you're looking for someone just for like future upside, Caleb Williams has to be up there at the top. So, don't mind picking him up if you have the roster space. And then, Derek Carr had two good first weeks. Then he was down the last 2 weeks. Plays tonight, so we'll see. It's a tough matchup, but he plays the Bucs in week 6, and they give up the second most fantasy points to quarterback. So that's kind of a good target. Next week is Derek Carr against the Bucs. Could be a good streamer.
Yeah, so I like all those options. Of them, you have to blow your fab on one. Who are you going with?
Probably Kirk Cousins of those 4, right?
Yeah,
I'd go Kirk Cousins, probably then Caleb, and then kind of flip a coin between the other 2. So Daniel Jones might have a little bit more upside with his rushing, although I don't know. I didn't even see how much he's actually rushing this year. He had 38 yards. So 11 carries.
He's usually averaging around 30. So
yeah, I think
that's somebody you're going to probably be able to get after waivers run. So wouldn't spend any fab there, but I like Cousins, and I'm probably going to go up to 20% if you really need a quarterback. I mean, so
yeah,
all right.
Agreed.
Okay, well, with that out of the way, we'll move into RBs, and shouldn't be any surprise, but Justice Hill is still going to be here for me. Everybody probably started him this week. I expected him to have a decent game, but that 6 for 67 was not going to repeat itself. However, the Ravens just lost sight of their offense, I guess. And so the game I thought Justice Hill could have didn't happen, but more importantly, the guy that I think is going to clearly carve out a role moving forward, Tyrone Tracy, 20.7% rostered. Singletary was out, and he looked really good in his 13 carries. He went over 100 yards, was just insane. And I really do expect him to just really eat into Singletary's work, and especially if this is a lingering injury, I would expect to see a lot more of Tracy moving forward.
It's a groin, right, for Singletary?
I believe
groin injury, some kind of leg soft tissue thing.
Lower half.
Lower half, yeah. It's definitely one of those things that can linger. Yeah, I agree. And it's like, how do you put that back in the bag type of thing, And it's funny because Tracy he only had 1 catch, and he's a converted wide receiver to running back. So it's like, I think he has a lot to offer in the receiving game as well. We just didn't see it yesterday necessarily. So, I mean, he's definitely probably. I mean, we'll go through the other guys on this list, but he might be number 1 out of these guys that we have here. So,
for
Jake
sure.
Bigsby is another one that I think should be pretty high up on people's lists. They keep saying ETN's the guy. Well, 2 weeks in a row now, Bigsby has led this team in rushing yards. He kind of they kind of went with the hot hand there in the second half. It started off it was like ETN, probably like 60 or 55% of the snaps to Tank Bigsby's like 35 to 40%, and then Tank started to run the ball well, and they kind of went with him later in the game. So I'm just curious to see. They seem to like him a lot. They drafted him, I think it was the 3rd round pick. They wanted to make him a thing last year, but he kept fumbling and just not playing well. And then obviously they want to make him a thing this year. So I'm worried about ETN, and I definitely think Bigsby needs to be picked up.
Yeah, and on that same note, they did say that ETN has a shoulder injury, so I'm going to throw that out there. I'm not sure when it happened, but
I thought he had that going into this game.
Yeah, they.
You said for Tank or for ETN?
Etienne.
Oh, okay, yeah. I think he did have something. I think they both had something going into this game. So yeah, it's
could be part of the reason, but again, who actually knows with Peterson what he's deciding to do? This whole thing is frustrating. So
it is
talking about he's great. He's doing a great job.
Yeah. But
they won
yeah.
somehow.
And I mean, they play the Bears this week. You kind of have to run on the Bears a little bit. It's hard to pass on them. So yeah, we'll see. But I definitely think he needs to be rostered at the very least. Jalen Wright, and he's available everywhere, by the way, Tank, less than 10%. Jalen Wright, with the HN potential concussion now, obviously Dolphins are on a bye, so is HN even going to miss any time? Probably not, but you never know with concussions, especially in Miami. But, he looked good. Jalen Wright looked good running the ball, very efficient, 13 times for 86 yards. Mostert, they ran the ball a lot. And as long as Tua is out, they're going to want to run the ball 30 plus times at least. So, he's kind of, because they use two backs no matter what, he's always just one injury away, even though he's the RB3, right? Usually you need two injuries as the RB3. He's one of the few RB3s you probably want to roster if you can, because, again, one injury away, and we see what happens. And the Dolphins running backs just can't seem to stay healthy this year. It's like every year you get one of those teams that have that position group that just gets decimated. Ty Chandler, possible Aaron Jones hip injury. Haven't heard anything about it. But, Aaron Jones has a history of being injured, right? So it's no surprise. He's a little bit older of a back. They're also 5-0. So, they can afford to potentially sit him for a week, Aaron Jones, that is. They don't need to necessarily rush him back. Ty Chandler did not look good running the ball. Was against the Jets, but we've seen him look decent in the past, last year for a few games there. So, he could be a good just start for the next week or two, depending on how long. Oh, wait, Vikings are on a bye. Well, after the bye, we'll see, right? So, more of a long term. And then last guy here I'll just throw out there is Blake Corum. A lot of people drafted him thinking he was going to either be something, or at the very least you had the handcuff to Kyron. And then it was Ronnie Rivers was the RB2 for them. It seemed like Blake Corum has taken over that role as the RB2 now. At least that's what they showed in last week's game. Didn't do anything. He's not going to be start worthy. It's all Kyron. But if something goes wrong with Kyron, Blake Corum could potentially win you, leagues type of guy. So if you want to pick him back up, knowing he's probably the handcuff, maybe we'll see, but don't mind that either.
Yeah, I'm going to throw out another name, and I kind of want to get your temperature on it. Jeremy McNichols, 2% rostered, widely available, but annoying any Eckler and Robinson manager out there.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's crazy how good this offense is, right? Washington Commanders, who would have thought this early on, at least, that we'd be talking about their RB3, and potentially rostering them. I don't know. It's you got to really bank on that touchdown, right? Because he's going to I doubt he gets more than 10 touches in a game if those two guys are healthy. And so you're really banking on that touchdown. So if he was catching 2-3 passes a game, you could maybe get away with it, but he only has one catch over the last 2 weeks. So in deeper leagues, I mean, I guess you could do worse, but it's going to be Brian Robinson, and then Eckler's up next, and then, McNichols. So yeah, I don't know if most shallower leagues, you're probably not even thinking about McNichols. So what do you think about him?
Well, I mean, if you think that the Commanders are going to run away with the game, might as well throw him out there. Or if either of Eckler or Robinson are hurt, he's clearly the next guy there. And even when they're not, I mean, I know Robinson was kind of limited this past week, and that whole offense is just clicking, and McNichols just seems to fit right in no matter when they put him in. It's just interesting. So I wanted to bring it up because it fascinates me that he's getting so much usage.
Yeah. I mean, that's true. If you think they're going to blow people out, which they're blowing everyone out at this point. So
this week will be interesting.
Yeah. Who do they have this week?
Good question. I know I looked at it and I was like, I'm actually kind of nervous about playing.
Oh, Ravens.
Yeah. I'm not sure what Ravens are going to show up. Which Ravens team are we going to see?
Yeah.
The one with a really good defense.
That crazy travel stat about Washington?
No.
About their schedule? because they have. Hold on, I can look it up real quick. You guys go ahead, and I'll pull it up.
But yeah, I think Tyrone Tracy is probably the number one on this entire list to go for.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I like him the most. And was my long shot when I saw Singletary go to doubtful on Thursday, Friday. But it's just he looked good. I remember seeing him in the preseason and he looked good. His tape looked pretty solid, and it's just like, wow. He looks explosive with that ball in his hands.
For sure. Again, and he's a converted receiver. Like I think he can do a lot in the passing game as well. So yeah, there's a lot of upside there for sure.
Yeah. And I mean, again, if you're really desperate at running back, which could happen, I'm trying to think of. So Pacheco's out already. Maybe you have Hunt. Kyron Williams. That one probably hurts. And Aaron Jones has Ty Chandler being out. I'm probably going to spend, 25-30% on Tracy here.
Yeah. There's a couple of deeper league guys too, like Roshan. He's had touchdowns each of the last 2 games, playing about 30% of the snaps, can catch the ball. But Swift seemed to at least handle. But they have really good matchups the next 3 weeks. So Keaton Mitchell might be coming back. I don't.
So do we think he takes
over
over Hill? He knocks out Hill.
I don't know. Not. I mean, Hill's been playing well, so probably not. To be honest, but if
Sparks, man, he
Hill
looks
gets
good
hurt,
occasionally.
maybe.
When he's out there, he's
Keaton Mitchell.
Yeah, I remember last year. He's explosive.
Yeah. He's one of those you're only getting 5 to 7 touches, but it could be HN-esque, right? Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So Antonio Gibson, I don't know. It's tough.
All right, I found it.
Okay.
So after week 4, when they played Arizona, the Washington Commanders won't have to get on an airplane again until December 15th.
Jeez.
They played a home game this week, then Baltimore, home game, New York. So they go to New Jersey, home game, Philadelphia, home game, bye week.
Wow.
So the next time they even have to get on a plane is their December 15th game against the Saints.
And then that's people going to London, and then these guys don't even have to get on an airplane.
They're going to take a bus to all their games. Yeah, they have a road game against the Saints week 15, 2 home games, and then finish the year against the Cowboys in Dallas. That's it.
Unbelievable.
So very light schedule.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's definitely a pretty nice little nice little streak. So
it's just one of those crazy things that works out. You know what I mean? There's no way the NFL wanted to give them that competitive advantage. But it just worked out with how everything fell.
Yeah, they didn't want to give Jared Goff the advantage of being indoors for 14 of his 17 games.
Exactly.
Aaron Gonzalez.
Here you go. Here's a good one.
All right. Might have just lost Nico for a week. Is K. Coleman a drop for yes?
Yeah.
Not even going to finish my sentence.
Yeah.
It's really Shakir. That's the one thing that seems to get this offense going. I thought that it might transfer to Kincaid, and it just didn't happen.
Yeah. Yeah, he's definitely a drop. I agree.
So if you're holding out, I'd much rather move on to Downs, which gets me into the next point. Wide receiver options, Josh Downs, 37.5% rostered. We saw him get eased in his first week. Then since then, been a dead split with Pittman on targets and usage. He's the current wide receiver 15 for this week. And in the past 2 weeks, he's been wide receiver 8 and wide receiver 15. So 2 weeks in the top 20. Week 4, 22.2 fantasy points, and week 5, 15.9 fantasy points. Now the question is, does that continue with Anthony Richardson?
Just don't know.
Gotta hope. He's still going to split targets. So now The next guy I'm more interested in because he's widely available and we've been talking about him pretty much since we started doing this. Jalen Tolbert, 7.3% rostered. He, with Brandon Cooks going to IR, currently wide receiver 12 on the week, wide receiver 29 on the year. One bad week over the past 4 weeks where week 4 he put up 4.5, but 14.2 week 2, 13.2 week 3, and then this past week 21.7 fantasy points. Like he is the opposite of Lamb. He's getting the worse cornerback coverage because Lamb's out there and Dak's going to him. Defense hasn't really been there for Dallas, and until that changes, and they clearly are still struggling to run the ball. Dowdle looked a little better this week with more touches, but they also had a healthy scratch of Deuce Vaughn, which I think helped him. But Tolbert's going to be an option. That consistent number is pretty impressive to me that he's out there so much. I mean, he's literally matching routes with Lamb every week.
Yeah. So. Yeah. They liked him in training camp and, former 3rd round pick. And, it's not just, it's something, I think, for sure. I think there's something there. So we're definitely keeping an eye on it. Yeah. Not spitting up a whole lot, but if you can sneak him onto your roster, I'm probably going to do that. Yeah. Yeah. Agreed. Yeah, I like your two guys a lot. Michael Wilson has a role on this team for sure. I don't think it's going to go away, even though we want to see, 20 targets to Marvin Harrison Jr. and Trey McBride. Michael Wilson's going to have his role. He's a good player. There's 3 straight weeks of, 9, 7, and 6 targets, 2 games of over 60 yards, and, with 8 and 5 catches in those games. Obviously, he always has a chance to catch a touchdown. Hopefully this offense gets going a little bit. It's been a little bit disappointing, I'd say, this offense, a little bit more than a little bit. It's been disappointing. Hopefully it gets going a little bit with that big win against San Francisco. So, Michael Wilson, I think you could do a lot worse.
Well, again,
and he's widely available. The Rams guys.
So I really like it. And then, and I love the Rams here. So moving to that, that's.
Yeah. The Rams guys, obviously, I keep bringing up guys that are going on bye. So, I mean, that just might make these guys even more available. But it's, Jordan Whittington and Tutu Atwell. Now, Whittington did, I think he was in a sling at the end of the game. So keep an eye on that. But both those guys are producing, at least I know Cup's probably going to be back. So that's going to push one of them aside. I think one of these guys is still going to be relevant even when Cup's there until Puka gets back. So don't mind, potentially holding on to those. But yeah, Tutu Atwell had 6 for 58 in yesterday's game. Jordan Whittington had 10 targets, 7 catches, and 89 yards. So both producing, especially in PPR. Juju, I think we brought this up last week, or maybe it was you, Steve, that brought him up. But yeah, I mean, pretty deep, but someone has to catch passes.
Super Hail Mary. That's what it was.
Yeah. And again, I love Xavier Worthy. I'm a big Worthy guy. I don't necessarily think he's just going to take on this huge workload. He could just kind of just be what he's been, at least for the next couple of weeks. So it could be a lot of, not a lot, but it could be, 4 or 5 catches and 60 yards for Juju. And then Trey Tucker's an interesting one. I think he's a pretty good receiver. Obviously with the Adams drama going on, he could be kind of forced into the starting lineup a little bit. So I don't mind Trey Tucker either, but for the Raiders. But yeah, I definitely like your 2 guys the most.
Yeah, and I'm going to bring up a name for the Chiefs as well, who I want to see what his usage is this week, but Justin Watson. Kind of, he seems to fill in randomly. He saw a lot of snaps last week, so I'm very curious to see how that all ends up working out. But just throwing it out there, another name to watch. I don't think it's anything big right now. But with that in mind, let's move to tight end because... why not? Anyone. Yeah, literally. I'm gonna go.
You want me to get the wheel out? Will that help you?
I mean, if you want, at this point, it doesn't really matter. But I'm again going to go back to it because I think he plays tonight. I'm going to guess that Taysom Hill is going to be out probably another week. But Jawan Johnson is the guy I'm going to go back to. Still too widely available. I mean, literally everywhere. He is 6% rostered. So we nailed Tucker Kraft last week after his big game. Came back and did it again because Wicks can't catch a ball to save his life. But that in mind, I was just kind of going with it.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't mind it. I don't mind it at all. I had a hard time just coming up with anything here. Like, I'll still hold on. Like, if I have a deeper roster, I still don't even mind holding on to Taysom Hill. Kate Otten, which Steve brought up, is always a good choice because he runs so many routes. So he's probably always gonna give you 2 or 3 catches each and every week. Brenton Strange is out there. I don't know. Ingram felt like he was kind of close to playing this week. So, I like Noah Fant, but he's just not playing quite as enough of, he's not doing the Kate Otten routes run and stuff. You either need to be a stud or you need to be, running 90% of the, out there 90% of the snaps. And then I just put Eric All, like a rookie that the Bengals seem to like. Again, really hard to like stash a tight end, but
yeah, he keeps seeing more and more snaps, man. He keeps coming into something. Granted, seeing Gesicki last week chase down and tackle was a pretty impressive play.
Yeah. Yeah, no, for sure. I don't think they're going to completely move away from Gesicki, but it's 24% of the snaps, 52, 34, 60, 52. So he's up to above 50% 3 of the last 4 weeks. So not quite what you need, but maybe he starts to come on a little bit. I think he's a talented player too. So, it's always intriguing.
All right. You got anybody, Steve? I know you hate a tight end, so I figured I'd throw you on the spot.
Yeah, it's really difficult. I mean, the only thing that really matters when it comes to tight end, as you know, is can they catch a touchdown? That's your guess. Right now, other than George Kittle, the leader in red zone targets for tight ends is Colby Parkinson.
Yep.
But I don't know how much you could trust that with Kupp coming back because that's basically everything that he does. So it's a real crapshoot.
Yeah, definitely a name that I keep.
Even then, when I say that, Parkinson has 6 targets through 5 weeks. So I mean, that's the state of tight end at this point.
Yeah, he's seeing a lot of targets. He's just not. There's nothing happening with it, and it's driving me insane. Like, he's running so many routes, playing a lot of snaps. Like, I would expect him to do more, and it's just not happening. So, tight end's weird this year for sure.
Yeah.
Anyway, into other things that more likely you're streaming, defenses. So, going with my favorite this week, the Houston Texans, 31% rostered. I mean, they haven't gone negative this week or this year. They just faced Josh Allen and did just fine. They faced the Patriots this week, who look like they might go to May. I wouldn't do that yet. I would prefer you have a better matchup instead of this, but all right.
I do just want to say, I mean, I appreciate Jared Mayo at least pretending like he's trying to win this season. I mean, it's the effort that he is making is just so great. Like, we got a bench for Ramondre. We can't be fumbling the ball. And then one rush play to Antonio Gibson, and here comes Ramondre right back onto the field. And now it's, we're not getting the QB play. We might have to go to Drake. Okay. Whatever you say, Jared, you just keep doing what you're doing, bud. We all totally believe you.
He's trying to get that number 1 left tackle next year. That's his goal.
I'm just saying he's going for an Oscar here, and maybe he'll get a People's Choice Award. But that's about it.
Oh, you should go to Gibson. Gibson should be the one carrying the ball more here. We saw how much difference it was making when he was in the game.
Yeah. Yeah, might as well get that number 1 pick, trade out of it, get a bunch of picks, build your team around Drake May. So, yeah, hopefully it does happen soon. I agree. I kind of want to see, they get the Jags.
Or maybe you're the Cardinals and you drafted Josh Rosen on accident. You don't know until you throw them out there in the deep end.
Very true. Very true.
Terrifying. Well, anyway, the Texans have, correction. The Patriots have given up 10 fantasy points to defenses, including Jets and 49ers, both having 16 and 22 fantasy points against them. Granted, those are much better defenses, but I would expect them Texans to be at least double digits here. And the other option I have is Atlanta Falcons, 6.3% rostered. They face the Panthers. Do I need to go on? I mean, they are strong. Their best defensive game was against the Saints. And honestly, they've only faced strong offenses. Historically strong, I guess I should say, because first week was iffy. They played the Steelers and then put the Eagles, which are also then the Chiefs, which are Saints, Buccaneers. I don't know. So Buccaneers, it's all iffy. And they get to play the Raiders. So it'd be low scoring.
Yeah. I'm with the Chargers. They're the defense. It's number 6 in points per game overall. I think they're allowing the least amount of points per game in the entire NFL, and it's like very low. Now they have played the Panthers, Steelers, Raiders, and Chiefs. You can throw them in there. So 4 not very good offenses. But they get the Broncos this week. So I'm not super afraid of the Broncos. I think it's going to be another, 20 to 10, 20 to 14 type of game. So I think it's going to be low scoring. Maybe they can turn over Knicks or get some sacks. So I don't think the Chargers are a bad option this week.
Maybe they're all healthy coming off the bye, have a whole extra week to plan for the Broncos.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see.
Yeah.
I love your optimism, Mike. I want to see it first.
Yeah, no, I understand. I completely understand.
But how about you, Steve? Anything? Are you good?
No, I think you guys covered it.
All right. Well, anyways, thank you guys so much. If you haven't already, please like and subscribe. Let's get on and watch this game. Hope you all have a good week 5. I will be back Wednesday with Neil doing roster of the people. And yes, until then, remember, as always, to keep up the nonsense.